Hey guys, welcome back to another edition of the Detour Live. It's obviously the last episode for 2021. It's going to be such a shame to say goodbye to such an amazing year. I'm your host, Dan Jones, joined as always by four-time national road champ from Australia, Johnny Trevorrow. Johnny, did you have a good Christmas, mate? Did you pace yourself?
Yes, I actually did. I had to because my grandkids are growing up and they're putting a bit of pressure on them. I'm not as good as I used to be. But we had my 4 kids, 10 of my 12 grandkids, and a few of their partners. They're growing up now. I think we had 20-something for lunch under the big tree at home. Just a wonderful day. Although by the end of the day, when the beer pong started and all that, it got a little bit ugly. But, hey, great day.
Tell you what's ugly. Your glasses are crooked, mate, for starters. Get your affairs in order.
These are the spare glasses because today I had to go to Mitchelton to pick up some up at Ngambie to pick up some of the supplies. And I managed to leave my glasses there. So
you've been punched in the face. Oh, well. We've decided to do another best of. We've got so many great interviews over the journey. I'm not going to get emotional on this episode because we're not going to be showing the Alan Piper grab. Which always cracks me. But what we thought we'd do is we go through some of the interviews. We've got Dave Brailsford, or Sir Dave Brailsford, that we spoke to just after they won the Giro in 2020. CJ Sutton's in there, Matt White, Christian Vande Velde, Jamie Anderson and Bernard Moorman when they talked about, really inspiring stuff around career paths and mentorship. But I thought I'd kick things off with the interview we did with CJ Sutton, because this happened a lot on this program where you would stop the show to tell a story that ended up just being about yourself. So I thought we'd kick things off with a bit of venom, Johnny.
Well, I just thought we might hit the DeLorean button and go back a tad because we're talking about...
so you want to play that little sting, do you? Play it? Okay.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.
All right, Johnny, you fired it up.
I love it. So, CJ, you said you're just a normal human, but you're not, because you're a Sutton, and the Suttons aren't normal humans. And I can remember first time seeing your old man, and it was Australian titles at Centennial Park, 1971, and he was a junior, and I didn't know much about him. And I remember watching the junior race because we started straight after at Centennial Park, and your old man just creamed him. He just rode away. And he used to have that pointy style. His feet pointing down. I thought, that's a bit strange, but gee, boy, could he pedal that bike? And he almost lapped the field. I thought, wow. Anyway, how's
it go again, John?
Yeah, probably does. Well, the podcast people can't see that, but that's how he rode. Yeah.
Okay.
And then we went down to Tassie. And I think he was still a junior, and they gave him a special start in the Tour of Tassie. It was the year that was 5 days right around. Donnie Allen won that one, if I remember rightly. I think I ran second or third. But your dad, he went about 2 days, and I think whoever was looking after him thought, a bit young, we'll pull it out. So I remember him saying, he loved my old man. He said, Mr. Trevorrow, do you have any room for my bike in your van? I had a van. I said, yeah, no worries, Gary. So I wrecked the bike in the van. And after about a day, he comes up to Dad. He said, Mr. Trevorrow, we've found some room in the other vehicle. We can put it in because Gary did the whole 5 days, become a handler, I think. And Dad kept, no, it's fine, Gary. It stay there every day. No, it's fine, Gary. I was riding his front wheel. Someone else was riding his back wheel. And I can't remember. Someone had his rear derailleur.
He pitched all his stuff.
Yeah. And I remember years later, he said to me, gee, your dad was good. He carried that. I said, oh, yeah, and I told the story. Oh, you bastards.
Did you have a question, John?
Yeah, we'll get to that. I'm just setting the scene, mate.
Okay, get the popcorn.
My last Sun Tour, and it was Shane's first Sun Tour, and they're only 3-man teams. So Shane and a guy named Peter Phillips, that's the older brother of Jason Phillips, and myself, we were the team. And first stage, we were coming in to finish at Bacchus Marsh. We've been up over Mount Masson. We're the only team with the 3 riders. And I remember Sefton and Dumps, my big arch rivals there. I said, and I'm actually giving Shane his instructions of how to lead me out coming into town. And as I'm talking to him, he punctured. So I won the stage without him. So I've never let him forget it. But he's never let me forget that in the next stage, the same day, I did my knee and had to pull out. So I only didn't even do one day of that Sun tour. So anyway.
Any questions, John? So
we'll get into that. We're just talking about, we're setting the scene.
You're talking about yourself.
No, we're talking about his dad and his uncle and the connection.
Okay, but you're also talking about yourself, mate. Come on.
Bay Crits. Now, Dan always has to go at me for mentioning the Bay Crits. I can't help it. But when I
love the Bay Crits. Hey, come on, Dan. Come on.
Okay. Now
it's CJ.
We need a little sting for the Bay Crits.
Aussie sprinter. Come on, we all love the Bay Crits, mate. It's the best way to start.
I'll give John credit. The Bay Crits in its heyday was the Ducks nuts. It was the best, fastest crit. It's obviously getting harder to get the caliber of talent they used to have because obviously
it's hard to put the damn race on these days.
Yeah, so that kicks things off with a very common theme where, Johnny, you get into these stories and you'd be like,
Bay Crits. Yeah, but it was about the Suttons. It was about the Suttons. I just was the part that they were a part of my life. So you're very harsh, but that's normal. That's fine. I can live with that. Anyway,
one of the other good things we talked to CJ about, he obviously raced a lot with Sir Bradley Wiggins. So we picked his brain about what that was like and what made Wiggo so bloody good. Yeah. But Kenan, you know this. Was that the first stage race Wiggo had won up until that point?
Yeah, it was.
There you go.
And then
stat.
Yeah, you're well done, Dan. Just to give yourself a pat on the back.
And you're first and second, but he wasn't letting the hometown boy take on victory there, was he?
No, he wasn't. But then everybody wanted to ask him. Everybody wanted to ask him about whether he was joining Sky for the next year, and obviously the deal was done. But he had to do the right thing and not giving it away. And he's, being a classic smart ass that he can be, Wiggo. He responded to, with saying, "Yeah, we've signed up for the sports package and the entertainment package. We've got the movies for the kids." I'm like,
he didn't
care. It was great. And I loved it. He was when you did a press conference and Wiggo was there, you always got something. Even if he said nothing, that was the story. It didn't matter what else happened. He was always able to deliver a story. It was great.
And that's why he's so good now in the media, because it's just an evolution of who he's been. Like, he doesn't have to change anything. If anything, he gets more confidence. Yeah.
No. What was he like to travel with, CJ?
Oh, he was awesome for me. He was a really good mentor. I used to room with him quite a lot, especially like early days, like in Cofidus and then at Garmin. So I used to room with him a lot and used to pick his brain, and we just had a great time. So he's just a top bloke. He's just raw. What you see is what you get, and like if you feel honoured and privileged when he takes the mickey out of you. So he's if he doesn't take the piss out of you, then you're not doing anything right.
If he's not taking the piss, he doesn't like you.
Dan, when I take the piss out of Dan, he doesn't feel honoured at all.
Love Dan.
Anyway,
I don't care, especially when it comes from you, mate. But what I was going to say with Wiggo is, what is it about Wiggo that made him such a big champion in the end? Obviously, you've got to have the horsepower, but you spend so much time, and a lot of cycling is above the shoulders. Was there any sort of major clues that he left behind that you're like, he was always going to do that?
I think like it was his mindset, but I think the main factor was it's not because he's my uncle, but just Uncle Shane. It was his weapon, and it's like anything. As soon as he spoke, you go back to that Sun Tour stage, I lost the first stage in the Sun Tour that year, in the Herald Sun Tour, and the first thing Uncle Shane said to me was, "Young Kersey Poo beat you," like he's 42 years of age. He goes, "What's wrong with you?" And I was like, look at this guy's Palmares. Like,
Kersey Poo's a legend.
Then I come out and won the next three stages. I felt a bit embarrassed. Like, it's young Kersey Poo. Like, if I'm going to lose the stage to someone, it's like, hey, look at this guy. But it's just, he's, there's a lot of athletes, as I was saying earlier, there's a lot of stuff that probably happens behind the teams, not just in cycling, but in a lot of sports, in general stuff, change of management, this and that. But there's coaches that you have that if you don't buy into what the coaches, trying to achieve, not for the coach themselves, like the results. He's trying to help you get results. So if you don't buy into what the coach is doing, you're not going to get results. So, you have a look at my old man, like with Team USA at the Olympics. I'm so proud of him, because all the athletes, they're bought into what he wanted to do, and he's totally changed that whole organization. There's a lot of people like, and I'm an Aussie through and through. I bleed green and gold, but I support my old man, and Team USA. I was so happy for him, and I was barracking for them, like in the events that he was in. I'm not going to sugarcoat it.
I was too, mate. I was too.
Well, there's a lot of stuff that people don't see for the fact that, like a few months ago, 2 or 3 months ago, when it was cold in Colorado Springs, I got video footage on my phone of the athletes trying to get into the velodrome. They were digging out the snow. Like they could not get into the velodrome. The whole team is out there, coaching staff, athletes, everyone. They're trying to dig out all the snow so they can open the doors to get in and train. So, that's dedication. That's athletes just going, no, like they could have said, well, we're not training today. But they're like, no, we're here. We're on a mission. This is what we're doing. And, if I should send you the video. But
I love it. Yeah, do.
People don't know. People don't know that. People don't see that.
We're going to ask a question, Keno, before you got to head off.
Yeah, I love that story. That sort of stuff. It's the stuff that people don't see, and everybody's worried about humidity and heat acclimatization, and they're digging out snow.
Yeah,
that's an awesome story. But I've got one more Wiggo question for you. And you spoke about your Uncle Shane and buying into the coaching program. When you were with Wiggo, say 2008, obviously your uncle saw something in Wiggo that a lot of other people didn't see. But at that point in 2008, did you really think that Wiggo could win a Tour de France?
Yeah, I did. I actually did. So because I room with Wiggo quite a lot, and I got to see a lot of the training he was doing and the power, and I'm just going, this guy's a freak. Just, the stuff that he used to do in races, what he used to do to help me out, leading me out when I was in Cofidis and when I was in Garmin, just the horsepower he used to have. And nothing ever happens overnight, but you can train that. And that's what they did. So, and all this training stuff that we used to do, even at Sky with all the power stuff and, long distances, as I said, you got to buy in. Like my uncle made me do these efforts one day, and I was just doing these 3K efforts on the flat, and I'm just going, this is ridiculous. But then within 3 weeks' time, doing these 4 3K efforts on the flat, I increased 50 watts for the effort. It's not much, but in the scheme of things, in 3 weeks, like when you're doing these 4 3K efforts and you've gone up like 50 odd watts, it's quite a lot.
It's a marginal gain.
No, it's more than marginal. I'll buy that 50 watts any day of the week.
That's right.
I would now too.
Yeah, CJ Sutton was such a fantastic interview because he speaks so well. But he made some great points there. Like he obviously spoke about his old man, but his Uncle Shane. I mean, how big was Shane Sutton in the whole success of Sky, particularly in that really dominant period from when Wiggo won the Tour to the Froomey days?
Well, not just big. No, Dave Brailsford and Shane Sutton together come up with the whole idea and worked together. So they were equal partners and they went to Sky. They got this whole thing together. So Shane wasn't just involved. He was he and Dave Brailsford, the original guys who made Sky team happen.
And there's a fantastic doco on Bradley Wiggins' journey to win the Tour de France in 2012. And there was like an amazing scene when Shane ripped Bradley a new one. I think it was in 2011, or it was when he was a bit off the rails, And he said to him, like, what are you doing? Don't waste my time. Like, if you're serious about this, you do everything I say. There's no ifs or buts. That's it. And sometimes it's a balance, isn't it? Between being that sort of hard ass or being that compassionate type. It's the yin and the yang. And when we spoke to Sir Dave Brailsford, well, I think we should kick off, Johnny.
Before you do, I got a lovely text from Dave Brailsford overnight, actually, just saying, because I sent him one a couple of weeks ago. But as you know, Dave Brailsford has just been made general manager of not just the INEOS cycling team, of the whole INEOS sporting regime. And it is absolutely, like, the cycling team is actually a small part of it. Yeah. They are a third owner of the Mercedes Formula One team. Mm-hmm. They own, I think it's Nice football team. There's the yacht racing. You name it, they're in so many different sports. And so Dave Brailsford has now moved up to all of that. So I just sent him a little message, and a Merry Christmas. He sent a lovely message back today. And it was thanks, mate. Hope you have a great Christmas. Let's hope 2022 is, great. And he said, and England is shit at cricket.
Well, I thought we'd kick things off by far. You've just dropped your mic. Your glasses are gone. Your mic's over.
It's back.
England's shit at cricket, and your polish with the podcast is about on par. But the best bit by far, I just want to show this snippet, is when we asked Dave, because Dave doesn't talk to media. I mean, he's a bit of a closed book. Like, he doesn't do many podcasts. He doesn't talk to Aussies that much. But we asked him, we said, thanks for coming on the Detour. And this is by far the greatest bit of that whole interview.
The reason I'm quite happy to come on here, because you both played a big part in this sport and you both contribute an awful lot, and I know that. So it's a real pleasure for me to be able to come back and jump on here with you guys, because I admire what you do. I really do.
And that's it for the show, folks. We're going to leave it on a high. But one of the best grabs was when we talked to Dave about, they just won the Giro, and it was about the evolution, because they were such a serious, almost robotic team. And then you could see in the content they were producing, you could see in the post-race interviews that they were actually having fun. So we talked to him about that.
I was going to say, Dave, you said you were going to do a full review at the end of the tour. After the Giro, is that review going to pop up and go, yep, we're still pretty bloody good?
I don't think we ever stopped thinking we were good. I think to be fair, we've got some fantastic riders, and that's that in the end, it's about your riders, isn't it? But I guess, we were 10 years in, and, we worked in certain ways, and, we're getting older, and you sometimes think, are we just kind of doing what we always done, rather than getting some fresh ideas and new voices, being challenged. And so I think that kind of review is always a good thing. I mean, it's been great to be able to bounce back. We like always, people like to give us a lot of shit, and I get a lot of shit. We get a lot of praise too when we do well, but we get challenged. But it's nice to be able to, we've got a strong will. I think the one thing about us is we'll keep on adapting, we'll keep on learning, but you never break our will. There's never ever break our will. That's not going to happen. And so when after the tour, it's a question of bouncing back. And then G crashed on the second day, and that was like a real wow. Okay, can't believe that's just happened. But then you bounce back again, and then of course yesterday, little Richie Carapaz took the jersey in the welter. So all in all, we're doing okay. We're doing okay, I think. But you've always got to. You can't just rest on your laurels. You've got to keep pushing and keep challenging and keep checking, and I think that's part and parcel of trying to go forward. And I think, there's nothing better than a good old, when you lose every now and again, you get a good old, kick in the bum, as it were, and it shuts everybody down, and you think, right, wow, okay, we've got to go again. And I think that's part of sport, really, and you get those moments where you really got to shake yourself down and go again. And I think that's what we've had a little bit this year. So hopefully it spurs us on to greater things.
Yeah. Well, Dave, we always ask special guests on this show. You know, we're in the middle of a pandemic. People are looking for motivation, inspirational stories, and that. What can you give the people out there that are going through a bit of a tough time from what you've learned on your incredible journey, mate?
Yeah, so I think one of my favourite little things is, well, I've got two favourite little things, really. One is, I just like the phrase bend like bamboo, because you know you're going to get under pressure. And when that happens, you think, okay, just bend like bamboo and just hang in there, and boom, it'll snap back. It'll come back, and it always does. You know, so that for me, resilience is bending like bamboo, and it's not snapping. It's like a twig, and you take the pressure, and all of a sudden you snap. And so I think it's just that flexibility to know, okay, this is it's a bit tough in a minute. We'll bounce back. It'll definitely bounce back. And I think the idea that you know, tough times don't last in the end. You know, and tough people do. And it's, I think it's just temporary. You know, and we just got to stay with it, stay positive. And I think the other thing is this pandemic with lockdown. I think there's nothing better than community and a bit of camaraderie, you know, laughing with your mates and talking to people. So as difficult it is to stay in touch with people, you know, see people face to face, I think making that extra effort to still communicate with people and chat to people, pick the phone up, do what we're doing here. I think that's a really important part of the human psyche and something that we should all continue to do.
Sensational, mate. Some great words.
Now, you're talking about the human psyche. I'm going to have a bit of a go at you here, Dave, because Dave suffers with a form of agoraphobia. He's scared of spiders. And one of the reasons he doesn't come to Australia is because his whole family is scared of spiders. So how's that going? Have you addressed that, mate? Because we want you out here.
Well, I'll tell you a story. When I was down at the Commonwealth Games in Melbourne with Shane Sutton and all the guys, and we were staying in the houses there, and there was a big sort of glass patio door which separated you know, two of the rooms. And we came back, and there was a huge kind of all this screaming and shouting going on, and basically there was a huntsman spider on the patio door, and it was like, what? It was a horrific looking thing. I've never been so scared in my life. And Shane, bless his cotton socks, went up and grabbed it by the leg. He just grabbed it off the window by its leg, like dangling it from his leg. Yeah, don't worry about that, mate. And what he did was he went, and you know, everybody's like couldn't believe what he did. And he went round, and there's a wheelie bin at the front of the house, and he put this massive spider into the wheelie bin. And then next morning, we were sitting outside, and Ernie, I mean, you'll know Ernie, our mechanic at British Cycling.
Yeah.
So he came out, and Shane went, "Hey, Ernie, do us a favour, mate. I think I think I had an in tube, and I think I threw it in that wheelie bin there. You wouldn't just get it out for me, would you?" We'd open the bin, his head is digging around this thing, and his massive spider. Oh, God. I mean, I was petrified just watching it.
Great insight, Tiffy. No one would have known about Sir. No one would have known that Sir Dave was petrified of spiders.
Well, the funny thing was, I was trying to get him out. They were coming out for the Sun Tour one year, the whole Sky team. And I said, Dave, come on, come out. Jerry would love to host you. We're coming into Mitchelton. You know, he said, and he said, look, in all secrecy, we've got this problem. And he was scared of spiders, and half his, because he's put it onto his family. And I said, I'll never tell anyone. Oh.
Anyway. Well, one of the other interesting insights he had on his interview was about how he's finally realized that, you know, it was all about also having fun, you know, with the team and the riders and all that sort of stuff. So if you haven't seen the interview, go back through the archives, watch the interview we did with Dave Brailsford. And then another really good episode we did was with Jamie Anderson and Bernard Moorman. Now, for those of you that don't know who those guys are, Jamie's a professor, and he's mentored a lot of current riders, former riders. He's worked with Mick Rogers, Alan Davis, about really shaping their careers. And Bernard Moorman had a cycle centre in Belgium, helped a lot of young riders. But the insights we got from those guys, because these guys are the experts when it comes to, professional development, but also looking at the sport from a different set of glasses. And that's what we love about the show is, sometimes you bring on guys that just give you that different perspective. And this was Jamie's insights on what Dave said on the podcast.
A couple of things. Number one is what Dave Brailsford started to understand is what Bernard just alluded to, right? Is you can't sustain high performance for the individual or a team if the team is not enjoying what they do. If the individual doesn't enjoy because otherwise it's just work and that becomes a grind, right? Bradley Wiggins, he did his time with Sky and what did he say? 1 Tour de France, never again because it's not fun. I don't want to sacrifice my life to this. And, we saw in Dave Brailsford interview with you guys that he's reassessing that they need to bring enjoyment in. But equally, what Dave Brailsford started to understand, and I think a lot of people have started to understand because the insights you brought, Dan, through Backstage Pass, is the importance of chemistry in a team and the importance of not having assholes.
Good insight there from Jamie, but it's a good.
It's a wonderful point, but that last point is, so it's so right, so real, because you get an asshole in a team.
Oh yeah,
it bloody permeates. So get rid of him. He's spot on.
No, 100%. And we've had Jamie and Bernard on the podcast since they've launched their hotel, which is the Flandrian Hotel. There's a website, flandrianhotel.com. Fantastic spot if you want to get up to, the Tour of Flanders area, right in the heart of cycling. They're doing a great job there. Also, they've got the art gallery. I don't know if they've got a piece as expensive as the Mitchelton Aboriginal art that I think, what was that, up to $5.5 million? That was a running joke that probably should have had a clip. I should have clipped up all the prices that you ran through for the 2 years. But one thing I like when Bernard was talking was, he was talking about when he was mentoring young riders coming over to Europe, and he used to come at it from a different angle. A lot of the teams and stuff is just on performance, whereas Bernard it was all about character and longevity and thinking about things after cycling. But you've spent over 20 years, mentoring and helping particularly young cyclists, if you said in the intro, with the cycling centre in Belgium. What were some of those key themes that you were trying to work on with these younger guys?
Well, simply put, I asked why they wanted to come over and why they wanted to do what they want to do. And for a lot of guys that, they have an idea of becoming a professional cyclist, but that's not the real why. And I think you really need that to overcome all the difficulties and also to see this as a part of your life, not just the life. And I think that's part of the reason why transformation gets so hard later, when when you're only thinking about, hey, I want to be a professional. So I think that's the hardest thing to overcome. Why are you doing it?
Yeah. It's a good point, Bernard. And in the Tyler Hamilton interview, Tyler talked about the fact that, when you're a young cyclist under 23 and you're trying to make it, your complete focus is on making it as a professional, right? So you're in no way thinking about what might follow or later in life, and probably for very good reason, because you need that focus. However, the real issue comes, when they then make it, they become established. And the reality with pro cycling is there is a use by date on your career, right? And the interesting thing that then starts to happen, or the question that we ask is, well, once they're into that pro contract, they do need to remain focused on performance. However, it's almost like the industry discourages them from thinking about life after cycling. And one of the reasons for that is, well, we think there's a bit of what's called the myth of distraction. Riders are told, if you start thinking about your life after cycling, you're going to be distracted from the here and now. And Bernard and I, we don't really, and the people we've met and we've seen who've done it differently, we don't really agree with that, right, Bernard?
Yeah, no, I totally think it's not that way, because I literally lived with all those guys. And then let's say it's a hard day. That's 4 hours of training and a few hours of eating and cleaning up your bike. So there is a whole lot of day that you need to fill with something. So why could you not think about your future then? Because otherwise it's a pretty boring thing, and it's good when it goes well, but just think the moments it does not go well and you have nothing else to think about. How hard is that?
Yeah, fantastic insight, as if he sculls down some of that fresh white.
Too quick for me, mate. Too quick. Play Michelin, this beautiful stuff.
but like what these guys talk about was it really had a cut through because it works. Like as I said, Jamie works with Michael Rogers. We've had him on the show a number of times, and you look at the progression in his career at the UCI, and this is stuff that people that are watching or listening can take for their everyday lives. Jamie makes some really good points about finding out what your passion is, what you're good at, and Michael Rogers, as he's about to talk about, was a great case study in that, because a lot of people get to a point in their career where they go, I'm actually comfortable now, but it's not quite where you want to be. If you like, you know, there's times where you have to go, I still need to make a tweak or a change. And Michael Rogers did that by going essentially and creating his own position at the UCI.
Yeah, very much so.
Yep. So here's Jamie talking about the work that he did with Michael Rogers.
It's amazing, you know, if we look at what Michael did, and I think he's a case study actually, you know, because he left the sport, and what we've seen is, you know, the last couple of years he was with NTT as a performance director, right? Now that was really following his skills. Michael Rogers as the time trialist, the expert on training techniques, aerodynamics, technology, he went into that. But although Michael loved the team and what it stood for and everything, he wasn't really fulfilled, because what we started to understand was that role wasn't really tapping into his true talents. And in spending many hours talking with Michael and exploring possibilities, what we really understood about Michael was that this guy at his heart is a curious person. He's obsessed with learning, right? Just learning, absorbing. And the other thing is, since he was like 13 years old, Michael Rogers has been a technology nerd, right? He loves computers. He loves the way that AI is evolving and virtual cycling and all that stuff. So what we started to understand, that this guy actually is a visionary, you know, and the other thing about him, at the end of his road career, he was a road captain. Why? Because he's got amazing leadership capabilities. So if you see what you had Michael on the show just a few weeks ago, and what's amazing to see is he took the time to really understand his talents, and then to say, you know what, this would be my dream role, right? Where I could bring all these talents together. And what has Michael done? Michael has actually gone into the UCI and he's pretty much written his own job description to align with his talents. So for me, that's just inspiring to see what someone of his capability can do when he combines that work ethic he has as a pro with his real talents, and what he's now doing with that. And now he's reaching an incredible, influential, you know, role in the world of cycling, and he loves it, right? So I think that's a great example of how riders can do it right.
Hey, Iffy, we've spoken to a lot of successful Aussies on the world stage in cycling, you know, your Alan Pipers, Matt Whites, Luke Roberts. What do you reckon it is, John, that it is given Aussies that sort of edge on the world scene?
Look, I think it's partly because it's such an effort to go from Australia to Europe and base yourself over there. It's a commitment thing, you know, whereas a lot of, say, POMs who come over, you know, they can just duck home, you know, but it's a commitment, and these guys are committed to it. And I think that comes through. But one of the real interesting things that's come out of listening to the conversation with you guys, for me, is the teams really should look into this situation of helping riders, but that's not going to happen. They're flat out running the team, getting the money, and they're all about performance. It's really a role of the UCI that should have put in place people to help pros look at the future and the transition. So, yeah, it's a challenge, but I think the UCI needs a specific person to be.
Bernard, you've got the example of Michael Rogers. Bernard, why don't you go out and create that role, and away you go, mate? UCI, you know, transition coordinator.
Well, in a way, with the cycling center, I was doing it that way, you know, and I got laughed at in the beginning. But at the end of the day, I wanted to let talent in young guys blossom, and hopefully they were cyclists, but if not, then it was something else, you know. And I think in the teams, Once, if you think about the professional teams, that's too far in the chain. Those guys only have money to get performance. And in a way, that's what they sell to their sponsors. We got to win the tour, we got to win, we got to win. And that's all what they're talking about. But it needs to come earlier. So maybe federations, but also the entire dynamic of cycling, I think, should change a little bit, where you really start talking in the beginning how hard it is. One of the first things I always said was, you're one crash away from a job at McDonald's, you know?
But, it's interesting that then, John, I'm not sure it's the job of the UCI. I don't know. But, I mean, Bernard and I actually, we're actually at the moment as we speak, we're actually developing some webinars actually to offer for the people you mentioned earlier, right? People who are suddenly finding themselves at end of contract, and they're going to feel at a loose end. I mean, Bernard and I, we mentor people individually, but actually the demand for this right now is massive. So we're actually got some stuff in the pipeline where we're going to actually be offering to teams and to riders some of this kind of stuff specifically on this topic, probably before Christmas. But, I think actually if we look at the parallel here, I think the teams are missing a beat, because if you think about the top TSA consulting firms, the McKinseys, the PwCs, the Accentures, why do top talent go to those companies? Because they know that they're going to get developed, right? They're going to work like hell. They're going to give 110% of their energy. But what they understand is those organizations are going to develop their expertise, they're going to develop their knowledge, and they're going to give them a network for later on in their careers. So I think actually the pro teams are missing a beat, because if they really want to attract the best talent, the most motivated, the most intelligent, the most, committed, then offer them a little bit more than a pay packet. I mean, look at what Green Edge has done with culture, right? That's amazing. You can attract people with the right environment, but why not also attract people with the promise that you're not just going to develop them as riders, you're going to develop them as human beings to launch them into their later lives. And I think that could be, an added value that would draw talent to these teams.
Do you think that's a good point, Johnny? If you offer the package?
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, I was talking about the UCI really being the group that would make the teams do exactly what Jamie was talking about. But, wonderful stuff. It's amazing.
All right, we're going to have a drinks break. Top your glass up, Johnny. And when we come back, we're going to have a bit of fun because, geez, when we had Whitey and Christian Vande Velde chatting about the early days of Garmin, it was bloody hilarious. And there's one story in particular that Christian talks about when he had the leaders jersey. Stay tuned.
Look at this bike. You think it's just a bike, right? But it's not. It's a bike 374 people are looking at. This guy, this girl, them, all looking at it. People from here, there, and wherever this is. People that are looking for a bike. Or just a piece of it. Amateurs, semi-amateurs, and pro-amateurs. This guy wants this bike, but with this crank and these bars. This could be the perfect match. But not this one. This girl has a bike to sell, and thousands of people might purchase it. Eyes on Bikes help grow small businesses. His, hers, yours, and the latest data and insights help those businesses keep moving. We are the world's #1 bike marketplace, with over 500,000 products and 900 brands, where buyers and sellers are brought together in a place where a bike is never just a bike. Bike Exchange, where the world buys, sells, learns, and rides.
Life is like a two-way street. It's about consideration and mutual respect. Roads are much the same. However you get around, walk, ride or drive, if we share our roads, we can all be safer. The Amy Gillett Foundation is Australia's peak cycling safety charity. Our mission is for safe cycling in Australia. Our vision is for 0 cyclist deaths. Over the last year, we've seen an enormous increase in people taking up cycling, whether it be for recreation, with the family, commuting, or even to start your own cycling career. We need to do more to make it safer for every cyclist. 20 cyclists every day are hospitalised, and 1 cyclist is killed every 10 days on Australian roads. So, the next time you jump on your bike or hop in your car, remember to practice the 4 C's. Be courteous, calm, considerate and conscientious. Every cyclist's death is preventable and we all deserve to get home safely. Please donate to help the Amy Gillett Foundation make the roads safer for you and for me.
Massive thanks to Bike Exchange and the Amy Gillett Foundation. Without those guys, we wouldn't be able to do a show. Now, back to a regular guest who's been on the program. We've got to send a big shout out to Matt White. You know, he's been an integral part of the Detour podcast. And being able to get daily insights, if he, you know, races like the Tour de France and to take the time out for us is bloody incredible because, you know, that's 20, 30 minutes a day. When you're already under the pump with logistics, it really has lifted the show to another level.
I agree. It's sensational. And Whitey is a superstar. And he's back here in Oz for the first time in a couple of years. So it'll be great to catch up with him in the next couple of weeks. So, look, it's just been so much fun as well. And I'm sure, because we get him first thing in the morning, then he goes, Jesus, those bastards, here we go again. But he loves every bit of it.
Yeah. And a really funny episode was when we paired him up with Christian Vande Velde, and they obviously work together at Garmin. And what is incredible is the fact that Whitey finished racing, then went straight into a DS role on a pro team that were in over their heads. He was 34, I think, at the time. So here's some insights on the chaos that was Garmin in 2008.
And why did you ever look back and think of 2008? Like, how the hell did I ever, right this ship that whole year? I mean, it was completely disorganized. I mean, it's your first year, so even if you were going to Sky or INEOS, even the team you're on right now, if you're going to Michelin Sky right now, with how organized they are as a young, you're 34 years old, right? 33, 34?
34 and 28, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it was a complete. I mean. It was a shit show a lot of times.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. It was completely unorganized, but you somehow righted ship, especially through the Tour de France and the lead up into that. It was a lot. Do you ever look back and think like, how in the hell I got through that?
Yeah, I do. And look, I tell you, the person that I did lean on a lot in 2000 and 2008 there was Shane Bannon actually, and Shane was Shane. I had a good relationship with Shane, and I just retired and. There was a couple of times there that I talked to Shane, and I was really at the limit at one stage from walking away actually because it was a lot of stress, and I did feel really responsible for the group that we had in Europe, and I wanted to make it work, and we just got on with it. And I suppose the one thing that I did learn from that year is I identified really good people in the organisation, and look, there's a few of those people who I'm still working with 15 years later, and identified those people, kept them with me at the key races, and it was a young, enthusiastic group. And fortunately for us, we had a great core group of riders. And when you're winning, you can forget about a lot of things. And we got through 2008, and year by year, the team improved, and with improvement, become experience and money, and we got things done. But 2008 was a very big jump into the unknown, and there's big periods of 2008 I don't remember because it was pretty stressful, but it was a ball, and I had to do it with I had a great group of guys I could do it with, and yourself and Julian and Dave and Ryder. It was a great group of guys to work with.
What can you elaborate a little bit more? Like, what causes the major stresses, particularly of that year? Is it the logistics? Is it like what is it?
Ooh, where do you want to start, mate? So
well, just give us the most stressful.
Well, it was. Jonathan had a junior team in Colorado that turned into an under-23 team that turned into an under-23 team that did a 4-week block in Europe to a team that was trying to do the Giro and the Tour overnight. A lot of the staff, I remember going to the Giro d'Italia in 2008, and I was the only member of the staff who'd ever been to a Grand Tour. So there was people, and I was a rider, and I went there as a rider the year before. So 2007 Giro d'Italia, I was there as a rider. 2008 there, I was there as a manager. So there was a lot of people who were just totally out of their depth. So that brings a lot of insecurity. So you've got new people doing logistics. We bought secondhand busted buses and trucks. We had people who, staff who come from America for the first time, and they're at the Giro 2 months into working in professional cycling, or the Tour de France 4 months into working into the sport. So there was just so much new that people hadn't really got into a rhythm, or the beauty of the team we're with at the moment, we're coming into year 10 and we've got 85% of our staff from 2012, and everyone just knows their role, knows what they're responsible for, and they just get on with it. And that's the difference between a new team and an established team, that everyone knows what they're capable of. They know the people they're working with. And we were all new. We hadn't worked together with each other, and especially at that level and that level of pressure.
Dan, let me give you an example. So I got to go across the line first in the team time show, the pink jersey. And so I had to, after the podium, I had to go to the press conference. And the team was so psyched that they're all partying on the bus. They went back to the hotel. They left me, man. We're in Palermo, you know. I mean, you might as well, be like in the mafia. And I took a cab home in the Magliarosa, and the cab driver did not believe me that was actually the pink jersey. Of why the hell would you be in my cab, you know? And so he dropped me back off at the team hotel, and I threw Whitey in the pool.
That is awesome.
I love that. That is a
True
great story.
True story.
I love it. That is sensational.
But do riders feed off that like chaos? Like, can it work both ways? Or it sounds like your group you had your shit together and you could move forward, but that could obviously have negative effects if you start feeding off, oh geez, hang on, I don't think the staff really know what they're doing here.
Yeah, no, there is a point in time where things are like, hey, this is not okay. You know, these guys, like Whitey said, I'd forgotten about that, but that's so true. There's a lot of those guys who had no idea, and we had the Garmin. It's okay to say now, but the Garmins didn't really work that well in Europe, especially, and so we'd find ourselves in people's backyards trying to find our way back home to the hotel. It was
sounds like a detour.
Sounds like a detour. That was a fantastic insight. And for all those people out there that want to get into podcasts and that, a bit of pat on the back is press people when they skim over stuff. So when Whitey said it was stressful and you wanted to sort of skim over it, dig. Because if you dig, that's when you get the gold out. And as you saw with your interview with Dave Brailsford, also if you have snippets of information, feed that into the interview. So one thing I remember is we both went to the Garmin after party, and one year they had Pharrell, and they used to spend so much money on these Tour de France after parties. So it's like, well, of course we're going to talk about that, because that's what I remember about Garmin in those days. So this is when they were talking about the after parties in a famous training camp at I think it was the Cayman Islands. Now, one thing Garmin did really well was post-tour parties. I remember going and seeing Pharrell at a nightclub once, sponsored by POM. I mean, those days are long gone, particularly with COVID. But I mean, you talk about chemistry. How important were these parties?
They were important. Yeah, we threw some good ones that didn't pull back to that. But the worst part was that I crashed out of the tour. So I was one of Tyler and I were like, well, what kind of guy? They asked us. Palm asked us, what we want a band. Who do you guys want? And Tyler's like, let's go big. Let's try to get Nerd and Pharrell. I was like, no way, we can't get him. They're like, well, all right, fine, let's try it. And then I crashed out. I didn't even get to go. Still, that hurts a lot more than product.
Mate, I don't know how I got a ticket, but I remember being.
You probably got it off me, Jonesy.
In fact, I think I did. I think we did. You were on the last day. You were like dealing these deck of cards. Going, mate, you want to go to a party? I'm thinking, what sort of party is this? He goes, yeah, mate, Nerd or something. I think the band's Nerd. We're going, what? No way. It's like, mate, 300 people. He's there busting out whatever songs.
Private gig just off the Champs-Élysées. It was a big one.
But we've mentioned this a few times, Whitey. Some of the things you did at Garmin, I mean, it was just fun, and that is actually pretty important. Like even the famous training camp at the Cayman Islands.
Oh.
Yeah.
Just for the listeners, can you just summarize what the training camp was? And
firstly, let's wind it back a little bit. It was not a training camp.
Okay.
It was a get-together.
Happened? Right.
It was a get-together.
It's important for chemistry. This is the whole.
It was important for chemistry. It was.
Yeah.
All right, I'll set the picture. So it was Garmin was merging with Cervelo. So there was it was like last minute merge. They were coming with 6 or 7 riders. The world champion Thor Hushold, a few other key guys, and we needed to do something. I think we were losing 3 or 4 riders, but they were coming with 6 or 7. We're keeping 20. Boom, there's the merger. Cervelo, Garmin, boom. Anyway, so Jonathan had done a deal with the Cayman Islands tourism department that they would give us free accommodation, and it was only for 3 days, but everyone would fly in. So most of the team was in North America, so the flights were pretty cheap. And then there was a group of us, and I flew with Brett Lancaster and one other Australian. I can't remember who, but we spent just as long getting to the Cayman Islands as we're actually in the Cayman Islands, and because we had to go to Los Angeles, then Los Angeles, Miami down to Cayman Islands, and we were there for 48 hours, and it was just a get together, a couple of meetings, and then a couple of dinners, just a bit of bonding. We played one activity that was quite interesting was the treasure hunt across the whole island of Cayman Islands, which got a little bit messy. But it was a good couple of days from what I remember of it. And then we got back on our planes and headed back across the world, another 20 hours plus some travel.
Is that how you remember it, Christian?
Oh yeah, I mean, I remember a few more things than Whitey does. But yeah, it was a special camp. That's for sure. Yeah, Ryder came over to my house in Chicago, and we flew on down together. And unfortunately for myself, we had booked a vacation at the Cayman Islands the week before we knew this was going to happen. So I came back home for 2 days, and I turned around and went back to the same place. You can't make that shit up. I mean, I was so bummed. Whitey came up and he's so excited during the Vuelta. Hey guys, we're going to go to training camp in the Cayman Islands. Like, no, that sucks. So yeah, there was a lot of Cayman Islands here.
And there's not too much to see on the Cayman Islands. It's very, very small. You can see from one. I remember getting up there and we'd had a bit of a night out the night before, and I looked out my window of my hotel and I saw these apartments. I looked across it up on the second floor. So I looked across, I saw these apartments, and I'm like, these apartments are moving. And I'm like, whoa, what the hell has happened here? And what it was a cruise ship pulling out. But because the island is so flat, and I was just like, whoa, oh. And then these apartments were like moving out to sea. And I was like, I know. I worked out what it was pretty quick, but it was a good couple of days.
One guy I reckon there's something getting swept under the carpet here. Now, come on, Whitey. You've admitted that you haven't got great memories of it. Christian, you're saying you can remember it better than Whitey. What happened, Whitey?
Okay, there's one that I have to say.
Perfect. Let's go.
Right. Sorry, Whitey. Whitey woke up in somebody's front yard, standing up. That's all I gotta say. He was standing up and he came to, and we had to go find him. And the sun was up, and it was it was like a fine. Where's Waldo? Well, we got Whitey back up.
It was in someone's stairwell. It was in an apartment stairwell. But you are right. I did. It was a very. I got lost. I got a little bit lost in the treasure hunt. And didn't end up finding the treasure, but found my way back to the hotel anyway.
Well, one guy you talked to about that trip who's I don't think he's scarred is Brett Lancaster. Like I say, what was Cayman Islands like? He goes, oh, no, mate. I seriously got crook. That is like, I've never had alcohol poisoning, but I was poisoned. Seriously sick.
Matt Wilson was there as well.
That's who it was. Yeah, me, Matty, and Bert traveled for 25 hours to go to a place for 48 hours, and turned around and went back home again.
Well, what is the fine line with all that sort of stuff? We often talk about, you wouldn't do that nowadays because of this and that, but I don't know. I think if it's starting to come back round again in terms of, is there a huge risk if you do like a couple of days of bonding? Because then people could take advantage of like, you're having a few beers or whatever. Or do you think that there is, merit and it is important?
Oh, look, I think there's a time and a place, that's for sure. And I think the problem now is having that time and a place with the team and not with the general public. And, I think get-together bonding is really good and has a good value with your teammates. The problem now is that everyone's phone has a camera and everyone is connected to social media. And so the things that you could do 10 or 15 years ago and just have a bit of fun with the boys and have a few drinks out. Well, that even perception, if these days professional athletes are seen to be professional 365 days a year, that ain't true. And riders need time to relax and spend the time with their teammates or have time with their families in an off season. But I think there's definitely a time and a place. But that window is totally different now with riders compared to what it was when 15 years ago.
Yeah, great insights there and great storytelling. Like once you get those boys going, it's bloody hilarious. And yeah, I remember they used to always tell stories about that famous like Cayman Islands trip, and they were just, I was in stitches.
Yeah, so true. And as Whitey just said, everyone's got a movie camera now.
Yeah,
a little iPhone movie camera. So things you used to do, you can't do anymore. I can tell you there'd be some good footage of the early days in my time as well, if anyone had it. But
now,
yeah, sorry, mate. I was just saying, wonderful insights, and they're obviously two really good mates. Christian Vande Velde, some of the stuff he was saying, I love the way he pulled Whitey up, and that's a good thing. Ask an extra question, and you get that little bit more information. Yeah.
That's it. Now, the last snippet we heard from CJ Sutton early in the best of episode. It was a really good insight into what he thinks the keys to success are. But then he also had some battles with some mental health, things along the way, and his insights on that was really, really good as well. So we'll show this clip, wrap things up, and here's CJ Sutton.
I think you can turn it around. You do need to have some talent there, but if someone believes that they can be there, then why not? Like I was just a young kid, and I used to grow up, used to race home from either footy practice or soccer practice, or when I was still riding a bike as a little whippet, doing the Tuesday or Thursday training sessions. I used to rush home and watch the highlights on SBS of the Tour de France, and I was like, I want to be a professional one day. I want to ride the Tour de France and this and that. I always had a dream that I wanted to ride for Cofidis. I always liked them as a kid growing up. There's one thing I never did was ride the Tour de France, but I actually rode for Cofidis, and I actually got to be a professional bike rider. And here I am, just a little kid from the Sutherland Shire. So, dreams and goals, like write it down. Things do happen. Things do come true. I got to live my childhood dream for over 10 years. So, it's like, you can have a bit of talent, but it's dedication. How much do you want it? I did my apprenticeship as a carpenter. I used to work down in Wollongong, a place called Jade Kitchens. So I'm a fully qualified carpenter, even though, I worked as a cabinet maker. But I remember a few days riding home, used to have a backpack on, like ride home from Wollongong, bucketing down rain, 70-odd K home. But, I look back now and laugh and just be like, well, that obviously helped me to get to where I wanted to be. So
Do you think this mental resilience, because I'm loving this stuff, I'm loving these areas, mate, this mental resilience, how important is this? Because do you feel that this, at a time in our lives, is the biggest crossroads, that mentally we're going to have to rely on all the tools that you've learned to persevere and get through this? And then if you do feel that you're in a good spot, how important is it to sort of share the tools that you've learned to help others to get through these tough moments that we're in at the moment?
Yeah, big time. I mean, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And obviously mental health is a big thing. Obviously I was forced into early retirement with a back injury. Me personally, I went through depression. I got married at the end of 2015. I pretty much spent all of December laying on the floor, just because of like my back, the way it was. I just got married, like beautiful wife, you know, and I think there's a certain thing, like athletes are so strong mentally because, you know, everything that you put yourself through, the training, you know, training in the rain, you know, racing in Europe in the snow, whatever you're doing, athletes are mentally strong. And I sort of, you know, I put on like 16 kilos when I retired. But I had that how-to moment in the mirror, like after about 6 months, 7 months. And I was like, you muppet, wake up yourself. Like, you know, you're fat, you got married, you know, you got a beautiful wife who loves you, who hasn't left you. And, you know, you want to start a family and have kids, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, get your shit together. So, you know, I went back to doing a lot of the stuff that I was doing at Team Sky. I was, you know, eating portion controls, like portion controlled food, like, you know, just doing protein days. And all I could do because of my back, all I could do was walk every day. So in 6 weeks, I lost 15 kilos in 6 weeks and I felt good. I felt better. And yeah, anyway, I never wanted surgery on my back because, you know, the outcome wasn't going to be that great. So, and I wanted to be able to pick up kids like when we had kids one day, and now we've got 2. So I just wanted to let my back or let my body do what it does and heal naturally, which it has done like with previous injuries before I retired. And yeah, now it's just like, yeah, I'm good. We've got 2 kids, can run around, pick them up, throw them around, have a ball.
Because you've gone through such a tough moment of your life and now you're sort of coming out the other side, can you see triggers in people a lot quicker because you've experienced it? And then what is the key things you say to people when they are and you think, shit, hang on, a good friend or whatever's going through depression here? You know, how do you react with that?
Yeah, my like everyone knows that I have spoken about like that I've gone through depression. A lot of people know that. So a lot of people have reached out. Everyone that I talk to, like I'll touch base with them every once in a while just to see how they're going. But I know if there's an issue, someone will contact me. So I do try and talk to as many people as I can. But you know, if there is an issue, like I've had athletes in the past that have been struggling and they have called me, not people that I've been coaching, but they have called me and just picked my brain. And I suppose that's where the mentoring side comes into it as well. And I'm happy to help out all young kids too, because I want to see young kids, I want to see Australian cycling grow, because I just don't think it's there as much as what it was previously at the moment. So, but like for all people, like if anyone is struggling, like and there's all ads out there and it's so true. It ain't weak to speak. Like,
yeah,
you know, it's, yeah.
And we had Vaughan on the other day, and they're part of the Mental Wheels Foundation. So that's mentalwheelsfoundation.org. They're doing a lot of great stuff with mental health and incorporating cycling and so forth. But you're dead right, mate. Like there's such an awareness now because we are at a period in our lives where it's like this is going to really test. And if you don't connect, if you don't communicate, if you don't reach out, you don't support each other, and get in that positive mindset and the insights that you're passing on, mate, is huge, I think. And the fact that being able to be comfortable, being vulnerable, you know, being able to talk about, being able to put your hand up and going, hey, there's a point in my life I really struggle, but being comfortable because you know every time you share that story, CJ, that connects with someone, that makes them feel comfortable, and then they're willing to open and share and put their hand up. It's great.
Yeah, I agree. Like, but I mean, why, you know, you sort of, it's not about me, but, you know, I did everything right in my mind, you know, my upbringing. I always had a plan, like, you know, where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do, you know, what I wanted to do if that didn't happen and so on. So, you know, I left school after year 10, got my certificate, did my apprenticeship as a builder. So I'm a fully qualified builder. And I always still had that dream that I wanted to be a professional cyclist. If that didn't happen, I had something to fall back on. So, and that's where it was hard for me. And I'm just speaking from my experiences. I obviously, when I was forced into early retirement with my injury, I couldn't fall back on my building apprenticeship because of my back. So there was a no-go. So I didn't really think about much more. But, you can work out what you're good at. And, that's why I started. I was bored, so I did a lot of study with health and nutrition. And then I was like, well, I always said I wanted to give back to the sport. Why don't I learn coaching? So, I know how to coach because I learned a lot from my dad and my uncle. So I can implement that and help young people out. Just, I was a young kid, wanted to see the world. So, what's to say little Johnny can't do the same thing?
Yeah, it was fantastic insights from CJ. He just spoke so open, honest, raw. And as we said in that interview, when you're comfortable being vulnerable, that's when you connect. And he did that fantastically. So that was a great interview. Great way to finish. But we had a couple of comments.
I like those two. That and it's not weak to speak. I love
100%.
Very good.
100%. The skull, he said, Joe's stories are great. I think he meant John. These are the live comments. Tom Maloney said, too right. Aussies make the commitment. Cycling Mag editor took John Nicholson, Murray Hall, and myself out to lunch. There's no free lunch. He reported in the next week's edition my comment. Lots of Poms just want to be king of their own dunghill rather than take the trip across the channel. Got me in deep with some of the riders. And then a LinkedIn user said, I worked on a tour as a guide and the Garmin sent me up the back of Alpe d'Huez. Finally, some redemption. So these are the Garmin stories. But no, we want to say thanks, as we did in the last step, to all the listeners, all the support, Bike Exchange, everyone that's got behind it, Amy Gillard Foundation. And we really hope that 2022 is going to be an absolute cracker for everyone that's tuned in. Andy Matthews, another regular person to comment. Thanks for another great show. Nice to hear that side of CJ's story. And all the viewers and listeners, Iffy, they've been massive.
Yeah, look, it was interesting, as I mentioned the other day, Phil Liggett, I thanked him for being on the show so much. And he said, no, thank you. Without his little involvement with us, he doesn't know what he would have done. It was so special to him because he was stuck at home as well. And so the fact that you and I, Dan, have been able to do this right through this year has made it really, really special. And it wouldn't happen without our great sponsors that we just mentioned, Bike Exchange and Amy Gillard, who help us. But without all of the Detour family, as I call them, who listen in all the time, and it's brilliant. So we're about to, tomorrow. We're heading to, it's New Year's Eve, so in Australia. For those over there, you got a day and a half to go. But I'd just like to thank you, Dan, for the amazing job you've done. I just waffle on and you do all the hard work, as you keep telling me. But
my job all the time.
It's been an amazing friendship over quite a few years, but a lot of fun. And I'd like to thank all our fans. So for those who can, see you at the Bay Crits in just a week and a half. It's not that far away. Not that we have to do anything to attract you, but there is a giveaway e-bike coming from RV Parts. Just if you're at the event, this wonderful e-bike for the M1 e-Tourer Ripper. Rode it the other day. Amazing. So turn up at the Bay Crits and someone will win that bike. But anyway, it's another story.
And remember, tell your mates about the show, youtube.com/the Detour podcast. Hey guys, as Johnny said, have a fantastic New Year's Eve. Thanks for all your support. And 2022 will be an absolute belter compared to the last couple of years because the bar is so low. See you next year, guys.